Hi, Liz.
Hi, are you at the doctor's?
I'm in the car. We called and he's running a half hour to an hour late. So we're going there now. But
Ah,
so I'm going to put it on pause and just ride. And
just ride along.
right. Yeah.
She has company.
Yeah.
Oh,
David's coming
good. I'm
with.
glad.
I
Yeah.
can grab the phone.
Okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Oh, good. Uh, by the way, so Mickey called this morning. Craig is not being released this morning anyway, and she doesn't know when. So he had, in the middle of the night, he had extremely high blood pressure.
Oh,
So,
that's not good.
no. So who knows what's going on?
A lot of that is probably nerves and white coat anxiety, as they say.
Yeah. But he was but they woke him up to take it. But I
Yeah, that's
remember,
the other thing I hate about hospitals.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. They don't let you get rest.
No.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Um, anyway, I remember when I was sitting with you, your blood pressure was fluctuating too right
Oh,
after
yeah.
the remember? So
Yes,
yeah.
it still
So
does. It runs high. It's borderline high now, and I'm on two different medications. So,
yeah. Oh, speaking of that, I got my results. My bad cholesterol went up, way up. He'll probably recommend something. And yeah, but that the platelets, they're still high, but they came down a little. So maybe I shouldn't worry. We'll see. I'll
yeah,
talk to him.
yeah, we'll see what he
I,
says.
I, I
Um,
disagree with you. I think you should worry about it.
David is being sarcastic.
well, it depends if they're in a what range they're in.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
The
So, um,
cardiologist, if he wants to give you something for the cholesterol,
yeah.
ask him. I can't remember the name of it because it's in the car to go to the doctor with me today.
Okay.
It's a shot that you get two, I think, a couple of months apart, and then you get one every 6 months that controls the cholesterol from the liver. So it's not one of those, give me the
Oh,
word.
yeah. Where you have to check the liver all the time or something. Um, I
It's
don't
no,
know. Okay.
oh God.
Well, anyway,
It's
what do you
not one
take?
of the ones that affects your muscles. The oral
Oh,
medications will affect your muscles,
huh.
and I couldn't take them
I see.
because
Wow.
they made me
Weak.
uncomfortable. They caused more pain in the legs and crap like that.
Oh,
So
oh.
ask him if he suggests something, ask him about the new shot.
Okay. All right. So I'll be here. Yeah. Well, if he comes on, I hope, he will.
Yes. Well, I
Uh,
haven't heard from him to say otherwise.
right. Right. So, okay. Going on mute. See you in a little.
Okay.
Okay.
Talk
Bye.
to you later.
Yep.
Hi.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. I feel like you should have waited at least another minute before you sent that.
Sorry.
Hi,
I'll
Rabbi.
remember that I'll remember
Hi,
for
Liz.
next time.
No, I'm kidding. You do it whenever you want. You don't have to.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
David and I are in the car. We're going to I have a doctor's appointment in a little while, so we'll be in
Okay.
here listening.
Okay.
Any news? Did you find out any news
No.
about Oh,
No, it's
nothing yet.
just everything's in a holding pattern.
Ah,
Hopefully today there'll be something, but otherwise just in a holding pattern.
okay. All right.
Wish I knew more.
All right. We're going on mute.
Okay. Mute away.
Yes, we'll listen and you talk.
Right to you. Okay, we are in Mitzvah 270, negative commandment, negative Mitzvah 270. He prohibited us from forsaking someone forlorn with a load stuck on the road. Rather, we must help him and unload it from him until it is set for him to carry it, or raise up his load together with him, whether on his back or on his animal, as explained in the Mishnah Torah, which means Deuteronomy. And that is his saying, and would forbear to unload it. The language of the Mechilta is, with halachic midrash, and would forbear to unload it, you shall surely unload it with him. We have found to learn that he transgresses a positive and a negative commandment. And a separate negative commandment also appears about this content. And that is his saying, do not observe your brother's donkey. And in the Sifrei, do not observe, that is a negative commandment. And earlier it says, when you see, that is a positive commandment. The regulations of this commandment have already been explained in the second chapter of Bava Metzia. So you're watching somebody struggle with a load. You're meant to go and help them. And it doesn't matter which point in his struggle you're at, you're supposed to try to help him so that he can once again get on his way. So it might be that he's just carrying this on his back, or it could be that he has an animal. Whatever it is, your job is to help this person with their load. Now, this lends itself poetically to because we use that word in English to refer to like burdens. Even the word burden that we use is shared with this concept. But people carrying stuff around with them, emotional trauma, emotional baggage, worry, or those kinds of things. So you could imagine extending this poetically to helping somebody who's struggling with carrying something with them. In this case, not a physical load, but an emotional or psychological load, and that we should feel beholden to help them in that situation. Okay, Mitzvah 271. It's a song, right? Lean on me when you're not strong. Da, 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 da. So lean on me is one of them, but there was someone else. Anyways, he prohibited the doing of iniquity in the measurement of land and of weights. And that is his saying, you shall not commit injustice in judgment, in measure, etc. The explanation of the verse, according to that which appears in the tradition about it, is you shall not commit injustice in the judgment of measure. And they said in the explanation of the content of negative commandment, you shall not commit injustice in judgment. If this is to a judge, it is already written. If so, why is it stated in judgment? It's to teach that a measurer is called a judge. And there they said of the measure, that is the measure of the land, meaning to say, the measuring out and its division that one does upon it should be according to that which is required by the rules of mathematics that are exacting in measure, and the knowledge of true geometry for use upon them, that he should not use imagined reckonings for this, as is done by most people, for they lack truth in weight, including weights and scales. So this is interesting, because he regularly, you would just assume that what this means is, don't cheat, don't put your finger on the scale, don't use false weights, don't use knowingly use measuring sticks or ropes or things like that that have been tampered with. But he takes it a step forward, and he says that you have to use the most up-to-date, truthful means for measuring, as opposed to just using these kind of rules of thumb kind of measure that a lot of people will do that tend to be inaccurate. No, you need to try to use the most accurate kind of measure possible. The most, he calls it, what does he actually use it? V'sham amru b'mida zu midas eretzalam midas of chalguses sheyasa b'kfi ma sheychayvu mofsei atishboret mitzedek hamidos v'yedia ta'ofanim hamitim bahem. So I guess that is the mathematicians, that language over there. So that's just interesting. We've had off and on over the years conversation about using the measurements of today for things like when does Shabbos begin, or when does Shabbos end, or especially in challenging places like places where in the far north or in the far south, you're somewhere and there aren't any Jewish cities around. What time is candlelighting? What time does Shabbos end? What time does a fast begin or fast end? So there used to be, that what you would do is you would find the closest Jewish community to where you are and keep according to their times, even if it was many miles away. It could be many, many miles away, but if it's the closest one to where you are, you're going to use their time frame. And then in my that was even common. Like when I was younger, we were told to do stuff like that. But then a book came out. I remember going to Rav Scheinberg. I was asking Rav Scheinberg, there was somebody who was going on a cruise, and they were going to be somewhere like near Finland in the summer, and it was like light. There was some degree of light 24 hours. Certainly the sun does go below the horizon at one point, but it still remains light to some degree. And the question was, when does Shabbos start? When does Shabbos end? What do they do about davening? And so Rav Scheinberg said, tell the person they shouldn't go there. Because it is, there are certain mitzvahs that you won't be able to keep if you go there. One in particular was the Shema of the nighttime, because we say that the Shema of the nighttime, the time begins, it has to be dark when it begins. And there is no dark up there. There's no what we would call Tseisa Kochavim, where you see the stars. There's no dark. So there's really no opportunity to say the Shema at nighttime. As far as Shabbos goes, you could decide that you're going to go by, you'll start Shabbos before sunset, because again, the sun does set beneath the horizon. So you start Shabbos by sunset, and then you'll end it by what would be called midnight, even though, again, there's no darkness, but there is a kind of night. And so whenever midnight works out, then that would be for sure Shabbos is over. So so you could, as far as Shabbos goes, you could still keep Shabbos, and again, you would do something similar with fast days. But Kriya Shema at night was one of the things. I don't remember what others might be. And because you're not able to keep all the mitzvahs there, that's why he was telling me he shouldn't go there. Obviously, if you end up there, there's nothing you can do about it, but you shouldn't decide to go somewhere where you can't keep all the mitzvahs. But anyway, so I went to talk to him about this, and while I was there, he had a nephew that was there, and who had this book on Zmanim, on times, and in working out the times for different things, and essentially what it did was help to explain how you can figure out this Zmanim wherever you are. And now we do it. Now, the times for things. Now you get one of these calendars, like it's an app on your phone. You ask it to identify where you are, and then it identifies where you are based on latitude and longitude, using GPS, whatever. And then it just lists out the your times here. So let's just try it. I'm going to try it for Finland. I'm going to try it for Helsinki. I'm going to do this particular one is called CalJ. So it says settings, location. So I'm going to do search city, Helsinki, Finland. So, okay. So now let's look at the times. So the first light is 4:41, and sunset is 7:35. Tseisa Kochavim is 8:30. 72 minutes is 9:47. Midnight is 1:14. So obviously we're in the fall, so it gets easier. But anyways, so you see, I could do that. You just pick it, and also again, you don't even have to. Even if there's no town, let's say you're out on the Arctic ice, it would still work, and it would give you the Zmanim. So now this is not an issue for us, but obviously it would have been before they figured out how to do this. And part of the way they do this is like with geometry. This is now mathematics when you're figuring out sunset and sunrise and things like that. You're not using actual sightings as your basic data. They've got ways of doing this using geometry and other forms of math. But the issue that comes up in this entire discussion is they didn't always have this ability, clearly. So if for thousands of years it was okay to start Shabbos when when it looks like it's sunset, and then to end Shabbos when 3 stars come out. So, and just to do it based on your sighting, your experience of it. So since they were doing that for thousands of years, couldn't we do that now? That nowadays you should still be able to use the same methodology that they were using then. So here, this Rambam seems to be directed towards that, and as you're supposed to use the measurements. In this case, it would be measuring time. You're supposed to use the most truthful measurements that you have. And if you happen to have some kind of updated system that is considered more exact or more correct than previous systems, then you should use them. So that we end up with talking about Shabbos entering, like Shabbos could enter at 7:03, and Shabbos could end at at 7:59 or something like that. So it seems weird to people that you have such an exact time for it, and certainly using instrumentation that they definitely didn't have previously.
One question about the instrumentation. That'll give you, you'll know how many lumens, let's say, whatever the unit is, and that's what it is at this place at this time and everything. However, what you're trying to measure is darkness, and that mathematics can't give you. That's something that it's a more or less arbitrary decision.
They do use
mathematics doesn't found it. It enables the calculation, but you're still making, what's dark and what is not dark.
You're not making it based on your observation. You're making it based on considerations. What are you saying, that when you talk, let's say, about 72 minutes after sunset and things like that? Is that what you mean when you say that you're adding to the determination?
Well, you say at 72 minutes, you say you're defining it as a certain number of, it's a certain quantity of light. But why that specific quantity of light? Why not slightly higher or slightly lower?
So you are basing it on the 3 stars. How they knew that was how they determined it, I don't know. But whatever it looks like, whatever that darkness is at 3 stars, that's what you're looking for. 3 medium stars. So, but then, yeah, so I'm not, it could be that, I guess what you're saying is there was still non-mathematical input. You're saying the mathematics is the basis, but then you're adding some human input after the math. But
because we have to decide, does that meet our criterion of darkness or not?
Right. I don't actually know entirely how this works with the math as far as sunset and other kinds of things. I do know that somehow geometry and angles are involved, but so I don't know enough to say. I'm assuming you do, and I trust you on that. But I don't know enough to say about that. I could imagine, and again, this may not be true, but I could imagine that, because I also read somewhere that there's different different night times depending on what situation you're in. Like there's something called nautical night. Here, I want to just see.
Yeah, there's all sorts of classifications of night. I think nautical night is the deepest, but I read an article quite complicated. There's lots of degrees of darkness. But
but let's say at some point somebody said this is what it looks like when there's 3 medium stars out, And this is the degree of darkness that we are looking for. And then from then on, they could use math.
Okay, but their
'Cause they-
starting point again
But their
is
starting is
3 stars. So that's
yeah,
the
but
base.
but the 3 stars, yes, yeah. I mean, but 3 stars, I don't know who was the original person to determine that 3 stars is what we call nighttime for these mitzvahs, but it's before the Mishnah, because it's already appearing in the Mishnah. I think it appears in the Mishnah. They call it, is there? Here, let me try that. Let's see. When? Consider it nighttime. And see 3 stars, 3 medium sized stars.
I just know that it
Yeah.
always seems too light when they tell me I'm supposed to light candles, and it always seems too dark when they tell me that Shabbos is over.
That's on
Always.
purpose. That's definitely on purpose.
Okay.
Also, when you're around Hasidim, for sure. When does the notion that you consider it nighttime when you can see 300 stars for things like Shabbos first? The notion that nighttime for halachic purposes, such as the end of Shabbat, begins with 3 medium-sized stars become visible, appears first and most clearly in the Babylonian Talmud, specifically in Tractate Shabbos 35b, where the statement is attributed to the Amora Shmuel. The Talmud states that when 3 medium stars are visible, it is considered nighttime. This is known as Tzeit HaKochavim. All right, let's just see the source. Yeah, so if the earliest is Shmuel, so then the question is, I mean, Shmuel happens to be yeah, this will take more research. Yeah, but if the earliest is mention of it is Shmuel, so you're talking about the late 200s of the Common Era, middle to late 200s of the Common Era. And so that would be interesting to sort of figure that out. Like, where is he getting that from? And is there do any other cultures use that? I might just ask them.
I'm not sure, but I believe the Egyptians had all of this stuff figured out a long time ago.
But do some of them use 3 stars?
Oh, no.
It's,
For what?
Yes. They don't
do
keep
any
Shabbos.
other cultures
Maybe they did.
mention determining, or do any other cultures determine nighttime by the appearance of the three medium stars. No other known cultures besides Judaism mark the beginning of nighttime. Many cultures globally assign symbolic and seasonal importance to groupings such as three stars and use their appearance for agricultural, navigational, or ritual purposes. None seem to anchor the definition of the transition to night on the visibility of three stars. Yeah, I don't know. Again, can't always know for sure when Perplexity does that. I have to search their things, but that would be interesting if there was another culture, an ancient culture that used that. But so far, it sounds like from Perplexity that there isn't. You know, one of these things that was it was really a jolt for me. Like it was a shock. When and I read this article several decades ago about a ship that was salvaged in the Mediterranean, and on that ship they found something which they decided to call an ancient computer. It was metal. It had like sliding discs, and they worked out that it was a way to keep the lunar and solar calendars aligned. And that in Babylonia and in certain other areas, they did that. Their calendars were was a lunar solar calendar, and they would, again, they had, I'm gonna see what it's called. Examples of lunisolar calendars include Chinese, Hebrew, and Hindu. But I also saw that thing, they had it, they said Babylonians were doing it. And a lot of them keep it together. They add another month to correct the 11-day difference, apparently. So, and it was always taught to me that this is something unique to Judaism because of Chodesh HaAviv, that Pesach has to be in the spring. And so therefore you can't just have a lunar calendar, you have to have one that is somehow aligned with the solar calendar. And just the whole thing, it was always explained to me that it was that was a uniquely Jewish thing, and Jews came up with how to do the whole thing. And then it ends up that it's not. It's other cultures, and even other cultures in areas that we lived had this. It was not a uniquely Jewish thing. Other cultures had this, where they were doing it. And it was just, and also the other problem is the calendar is a very boring subject to most people. And so it's not like there's tons of scholars of the calendar around that you can schmooze with them. So there's like a couple people that are known for the calendars, their niche. So, and I remember I was talking to Mordechai Becher with this when I first stumbled across it decades ago, and he told me about this guy in Detroit who he said is an expert on the calendar. And I sent this question to him, and he never responded. So again, the question is just why do we teach it that way? The question isn't why other people have it. So that's why I'm always wondering if other cultures are doing these things, because I've had the experience where it was implied that they didn't, and then we find out that they did.
He didn't know what day you sent it to him on.
That might be the problem. You're right. Thank you. That
He
might
got
be
confused with his
There you go.
calendar.
That could be. You're right. That could be. Okay. That he prohibited us from having weights and measures that are deficient with us in our homes, even though you don't buy and sell with them. You're not even supposed to have them. Forget, even if you're not using them, you're not supposed to have them. And that is his may be exalted, saying, you are not to have for yourself in your pouch varying weighing stones, large and small, and likewise varying ephah measurements. And the language of the Gemara in Bava Basra is, it is prohibited for a person to keep in his house a measure that is deficient or inflated, even if he only uses it as a chamber pot for urine. And you should not think that his saying you are not allowed to have for yourself varying ephah, etc., and you should not have for yourself varying weight stones signifies that they are two distinct negative commandments. Indeed, it is coming to round out the laws of the commandment so that the types of measurements are explained and they are weight and measurement. It is as if he would say, you should not have two measures with you, not for measuring and not for weighing. As we explained in the positive commandments, positive commandment 208, and is saying you are not to have for yourself varying weight stones. You should not have for yourself varying ephah measurements. It's like saying you shall not charge interest to your brother, interest of money, interest of food, interest of anything upon which interest is charged. So it's not, there is extra language here. It sounds like possibly that it's describing two separate commandments, two separate negative commandments. The Rambam is saying it isn't. It's just saying you shouldn't have false measures in your house, whether it's for weight or whether it's for volume. Which is one negative commandment that includes many types, all of which have very same content. And it is not from the repetition of language that there is an expansion of commandments, as we discussed earlier in Principle 9. And something like this negative commandment already came before us, and that is his saying, no chametz may be seen and no leaven may be seen. So the last chunk of this explanation here is not about the specific issue of weights and measures. It's about how many mitzvahs this takes up. He is suggesting it is one negative commandment, even though it looks like it could be two. And he's explaining to you how he gets to that, how he knows that. How does he know to? Because sometimes it looks like you have almost a very similar kind of thing, almost exactly the same. And he's counting it as two separate mitzvahs. And here he's only counting it as one, but he's saying to you, they're not exactly the same. And here it's just expanding on the notion so that we really understand it. It's not just about weight. It's not just about volume measure. It's about both weight and volume measure. And then we'll do one more. That he prohibited us, he, capital H, Hashem, from doing inequity in judgment. That is, his may be exalted, saying you shall not commit injustice in judgment. The content of this negative commandment is that one not go against the rules of the Torah established to make someone liable for something or to make him exempt from it. So, in other words, if you have the rules and you have the means to determine whether this person has followed the rules or not, whether this person's guilty or not, or whether this person owes money or not. You have sufficient information. You have all the tools you need. So therefore you know what the proper judgment is, but now you're trying to change it. And you could be changing it for all the right reasons in your mind. You're trying to change it to give this person a chance because you believe that society has stacked things up against this person. What you might have the best intentions. You're not supposed to do it. You're supposed to, when somebody comes before you for judgment, you're supposed to use the means already given to you and the tools for determination already outlined for you. And if you can come to a result based on that, you're supposed to follow that result. There are times where it is left up to your discretion, and then you'd be allowed to use your discretion. But if we're talking about a scenario where that isn't the case, where the law is clear, then you have to follow the law. I look forward to learning together. I hope very much that we'll be able to learn together the week after Rosh Hashanah. So next Monday, we're not going to be meeting. What is Wednesday?
Yom
Gedalia?
Kippur.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying this next Wednesday, is that still Rosh Hashanah or is it Sum Gedalia?
Well,
Whatever it is.
It starts Monday night, Erev.
Yeah, so Monday night, and then you have, oh yeah, so Wednesday's Rosh Hashanah. Then the next week, I think, is that Erev Yom Kippur Wednesday? That might be Erev Yom Kippur. But
Not
next
sure.
week,
Yeah.
next week we could definitely do Monday and Tuesday. We'll see about that. So the Monday after Rosh Hashanah, that's when
Yeah,
we will be
You
meeting
should be
again.
okay Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is Erev Yom Kippur.
Okay. Yeah, so we could do Monday and Tuesday of that next. But next week we're not meeting. You should have a Ksiva Ksima Tova. I mean, tomorrow our women's class is meeting, but as far as our Rambam class, should have a Ksiva Ksima Tova, a sweet, sweet New Year. Be
Good.
well, everybody.
All.
We dear to be well.
A
Thank you.
wonderful
Amen.
year.
Yes.
Amen. Amen.